Looks like we had a brief blip. Looks like everything is up and running again. Okay. I think everything is up and running again. Sorry about that, folks. It seems we had a brief internet outage that, dropped everything. Okay. Alright. We're all back. I think so. Let's just sort that one out. There we go. Wow. Okay. Thanks for waiting for us to get back with the stream. So, for anybody who's arrived recently, if you have any questions about what you might be seeing me doing, or anything serverless related at all, it doesn't have to be anything to do with what you see on the screen, please feel free to ask questions. Provide feedback. Whatever it is that you're looking for, please go ahead. This is not just a session about what I'm, the component I'm building, but also I just like to talk about serverless stuff with folks anyway. Hey, Andrew Rico, how you doing, man? Yeah, we're back. We had a little blip there. Yeah, and while you're here, feel free, if you're on Twitch, to follow us. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and all that good stuff. And I guess I'm going to carry on for now. And I'll keep an eye on the stream and make sure that everything is okie dokie. Seems good now. Okay, let's continue. Yeah, I was trying to sort out how to handle the alias ARNs, the multiple ones. So I have now given it sort of a custom way to build those out. Where is it? Here. As it loops through each of our lambda functions, it will now have a unique alias ARN for all of them. Briefly. Okay. Awesome. So now I'm going to get my head back into things since the interruption. What was the next bit we need to work on? So I need to tweak the next part after this. So after we've now set our alias on with get alias, which is here, we need to sort this out. This essentially Alright, so let's copy this entire chunk here all the way down. Interesting, it returns that. I don't know why, because actually shouldn't need to return anything because this doesn't actually store that, but anyway. Right, so let's continue from where we were. So we did the get alias piece here, which is there. So we're going to go from here all the way through to this return. Copy this out. Just add it into our for loop here. Right, here we are. And let's go ahead and make the changes we need to get this to work for us. So yeah, const will be defined in the for loop, so that's fine. Don't need to worry. Lambda name is going to be is here. It's this, yes. That's the lambda name. Yep. The inputs there. Okay, so this is essentially feature or default. It's pretty much hard coded, depending on whether you're doing traffic shifting or not. And the lambda version is different as well. It's this. Grab that. This here. Then get routing config. So here's another one that we might need to create our own custom instance object for. I'm immediately going to do not that so we can, let's see what this need? Just the lambda name. Okay. So we need the lambda name. That's going to be that. And then the lambda name again is going to be this. Okay, so that should work. User-defined routing con. Okay, so this is all stuff looking at the inputs. And this is the alias arn. Weird how it's looking for an alias arn. It was created above. That's what it needs to be changed to. Where is this? Our alias parameters up there, which we looked at. And we looked at those. All right, so that should do it. And then ultimately, this is not a return because we are in a for loop. See there. Let's just afterwards we return null because we don't even actually care about the return. And then I can comment out the rest of this. We still keep it just in case, so we have a reference, the original working version for the change because of the changes we made up. Yeah. Okay, that's the next step done. We've done that. Now we need to do create update API. And this is where we're going to create. This is potentially going to get a bit more complicated because now we want to create unique endpoints, API gateway endpoints to each of our Lambda functions here that we've got in our code. And by default, this will only we'll be supporting a default of 1 that it assumes will be the only one. But we only need one API. I'm going to immediately, so this is the alias arn. Okay. I'm just going to look through this so we can see what we're dealing with here. We only need the one API and one API gateway URL because this isn't the specific endpoints. That's fine. I'll let it worry about creating that single API, but does it? Confused. Let me see, where's the end of this? But what about the endpoint? Ah. Okay, so this is all about domain management. I am not yet seeing the function being connected to API gateway. Take a look again at create or update API. I must have missed something here. This is looking for an existing API and then retrieving it here so we can make changes to it if we need to. This is looking at the alias arn, assuming that there is only the one Lambda function, so this is something we probably need to change. Yeah, I guess this is actually creating unique. Oh no, because this is Express. So this doesn't need to make an actual endpoint as such because all traffic is going to be going through to the... Yeah, he has in fact something to do with path, I just see now. There's the target, okay. Right, so this is where it's creating the API for the first time if it doesn't exist. If it exists, it's what happens up here. If it doesn't, it's what happens down here. Creates a brand new API. Oh, this is the HTTP API. That's why it's different. Okay, so it's a little different. Okay. So let's go take a look at API Gateway v2. Yeah, thought so. This is going to get interesting. Okay. Really what it looks like is... This might actually need to be rewritten because this is ultimately assuming a single API endpoint pointing at an Express app which handles the routing, not API itself. And we want API Gateway to handle the routing. Tricky, tricky. Let's see. There is a... if we look at utils, I want to go back up to the top here. The AWS SDK Extra NPM module that's created by Serverless allows you to do things pretty quickly and easily. The AWS SDK is okay, but it tends to be very long-winded when it comes to setting things up, requiring multiple API calls all over the place to pass data to a single one, where the specific one tries to make things a bit easier and quicker. So what I'm looking for, that's fine. We've got to deploy lambda. Some AppSync features over here, which is nice. Yes. Roll on, table on, Elasticsearch RDS. Some extras. I like extras. Show me the extras. Alright. So, what I want to do, let's go back to our browser here for a second. Take a look at something. Okay, here is the AWS SDK Extra NPM module. And I think the documentation hasn't been fully updated with all the extra bits that you can do. Here you can see some more of these. The domain DNS. I don't want just that. Right. Let's go back here. I want to take a look back here again, and we're going to create or update API. Look at what else exists down here again quickly. That's just creating the output, so that's fine. All right. The clients that were originally created, let me actually take a look at this because we have get clients here, and this is going to create API Gateway v2 client. Okay. So let's go take a look at the documentation for this because we could just call stuff there. So let's go look at API Gateway v2. We have documentation open. Or we did. Yeah. Nope. Okay, it doesn't matter. AWS, JavaScript, SDK, API Gateway v2. There we go. Hey there, Jun. How you doing? Hey, June, how you doing? For anybody, and hey, Brendan, how you doing? For anybody who's just arrived, if you have any questions, feel free, guys. Today's session is not just about what I'm doing on the screen. If you have just general questions about serverless framework, about anything else you might be doing, some feedback on what you see me doing, it's an open forum, so go right ahead. If you're wondering what we're doing here, we're trying to build our own serverless component. I've dabbled briefly a little bit with what components look like and how to build them. I've deployed a bunch of components already, so that's not foreign to me. But what we've done is we are trying to build our own component that essentially has creates an API for a specific entity, whether that be and you can define that with in your serverless.yaml, name it whatever you want, like customer, product, car, vehicle, shoe, whatever the entity is that you want to keep track of. And the component will automatically deploy a CRUD for you like this, so you can have endpoints to create, update, delete, and retrieve that entity from DynamoDB automatically, and eventually even hook into something like SNS or EventBridge to asynchronously emit the specific event into your ecosystem so that the rest of your services could pick up on that, essentially. So right now we're just busy, we've taken the Express component that exists and we're retrofitting it in order to see if it'll help, if we can use this to deploy basically 5 Lambda functions instead of just the one that the Express component does. And obviously 5 separate endpoints as well to each of those Lambda functions. So instead of, as the Express component is, where you have a single API gateway endpoint pointing at a single Lambda function, and the Lambda function based on Express handles the routing, API gateway is going to do that instead. That's the basics. Not super complicated, but like I said, it's the first time I'm actually looking properly at building my own components. So I'm kind of learning how it all works and fits together. And it's kind of fun. I enjoy it. Right now we are looking at API Gateway v2 SDK because that's where I put it. We want to see how we can use this, and really it just looks like create API. That's it. Interesting. Huh. Looking through some of these, because I noticed. So one thing I need to take a look at again. We go back to looking at create or update API. We have there get API, so that retrieves our existing API. And that's for updating the API. I'm going to be pretty surprised. Create API. Interesting. It's really as simple as that, is it? Very interesting. I could... Now, this makes it actually seem a lot simpler than I thought it would be. I could actually do the same thing we were doing before. Looping through this and... Interesting. So let's take a peek at... Alright, so let's go ahead and restart this like we've done our others. So we had to do the same thing where we loop through our Lambda functions. It'll always be these 5. But instead of assuming we just have one, we now need to loop through all 5 and treat them individually. So I'm going to go back here and just grab my for loop, just to keep things consistent. Okay. So now let's grab one chunk at a time like we've done before. Grab this one. Yep, that one. But transform this as we need. So this is not going to work because there could be multiple APIs. And instance state is a centralized state storage mechanism for our component when it gets deployed. Because we don't have just one Lambda function, we have 5, this is not going to cut it. This would be great if we only always had the one Lambda function, but we're not. So we need to grab Lambda handler here and drop it in as a something to make it unique so we can have we can have multiple APIs, but we also obviously need to wrap this in square brackets because it is a dynamic. Yep, there we go. Okay. And that means we need to grab this each time now and replace it for interesting. And actually, I'm going to API ID is equal to this. No, this over there. And that means I can just drop this in over there. There we go. That just makes it a bit easier for me so that I can do things like that. There we go. Okay. Again here. And okay. Why does it need... okay. Oh, okay. I'm going to tweak this actually to be that. So make it less potentially conflicting with that. That's all. Well, okay. The idea with this one is that it will be storing in DynamoDB. So right now, the plans for this aren't huge. I'm going to just have a generic ID. And in fact, when you post to the create entity, the ID, you have to specify an ID that you want to use. It's going to be a single primary key ID column. It's not going to use the complex primary keys for DynamoDB. Maybe later as further iteration on this component, but I don't even know where this component is going to go yet. If we get it working and stuff, maybe we'll make it available on GitHub. I have no idea. This is kind of a pet project right now, so there's no sort of official stance on this component. But hey, it may be really handy and useful. Right now, this is we're having our Serverless Creative Day, which is kind of our version of sort of the Google 20%, where we just take time to experiment with stuff we've never really experimented with before, and I decided to stream it today. And yeah, so I'm taking a look at components and what it takes to build one, potentially building my own. And yeah, this may end up being something useful. I think folks might find useful. Who knows? Thanks for the question, Sam. Yeah, so the DynamoDB support is very, very basic. In fact, we can take a look. I've written the code. I've already written these Lambda functions, and really all it does is, for example, it's going to look in the body. It is going to look for an ID value in the data sent in the body, so that is required. It's going to fail if it's not there. Then it's going to add that item into the table, assuming that the ID value exists, and then just loop through all remaining values and add it in. In fact, I should probably look for ID and exclude it because I added in here. But yeah, I'm going to actually do that. If E is not equal to ID, then do the below. There we go. Okay. So yeah, that's clear. It adds the ID explicitly, and then it loops and just adds every single item as a separate column, just to keep things simple. Iteration is the name of the game when it comes to these things. What's different here is that I'm trying to make a whole bunch of changes right up in front and then test it a bit later. But yeah, let's see how far we can get today. Right, so create update API. We are still looking here. We are looping through our 5 Lambda functions that we may have. So far, this looks like it's working as intended. So now that we've gotten up to there, let's grab the next piece, which is this here. I think we're going to grab this all the way down. Right, so just remember, this is a return. I'm going to grab all of this. No, up here. That's where we need to be. Drop that in, and then remove this return. This is a loop, so we can't return. I'm going to add the else in for when we copy the next block over to work on. Okay. So we've done this. This has been set. Okay, so that's now... Okay, alias arn. So this is not going to cut it because this refers to a single lambda function. We have multiple. So I need to go take a look at what we did before in this update alias. Let's go see what an alias arn looks like. It's lambda hand alias arn. Okay, so that's what it is. Easy peasy. So let's go back here. It's going to be this value here. And again, we're going to do the literal template string alias arn. That works. Okay, so this is what the lambda arn will look like. It's going to grab that out of the instance the state object. And if the API exists, I'm going to say found. That is fine. I'm going to grab this one. And damn it, I messed that up now. Got confused there for a second on what I was looking at. Okay, so here again, API gateway URL. Okay. So these are going to be Lambda specific, I'm guessing. Really? Is it going to be... Yeah. There's a tricky little bit here. You may be able to hear the children in the background. We are working from home. It's going to look to me like we may have to actually rewrite this huge chunk. Problem is, I don't want to have a different subdomain per lambda function. And path, sure. Not a different domain. That makes it a little bit trickier now. Should we be re-architecting this? Just need to... Yeah. I want to think this through a little bit. I have not used API Gateway v2 SDK a hell of a lot, so some of this is new to me. It looks a lot more simplified. So if we go back to this documentation again, I think it's over here. Create API. API pause configuration. Yeah, it doesn't look like the mic is being triggered by their voices, but they seem to be having a lot of fun. Anyway. So that's for WebSocket APIs. I can ignore that. Course configuration credentials on. Name of the API. Where is API ID coming in? Let's go back here and we look at this. Oh, that's update. That's why I'm confused. Okay, so it may not be what I thought. We need to get to the create section. Let's just look at the create section to understand this a bit more clearly. Yeah, it's further down here. Here it is. Alright, so here is where it's updating. Creating API. That API name. HTTP. Yeah, you're not actually interesting. Okay, see what's happened. The API ID is going to be the same for all 5 functions. Okay, so I can keep that as it was. It is this API name that's going to be different. But is that going to... Interesting. How do I... Yeah, this is because it is... Okay, so I think the problem is that if I want to add additional endpoints to an existing API, so the assumption, the problem with the express component is that the assumption is there's always going to be one handler. If the API doesn't exist, then obviously that one handler wasn't added. But if it does exist, it's only the one handler anyway. In my use case, I could be deploying for the first time. I add the first handler in. It's going to create the API. I add the second handler in. Now it needs to add... Oh, wait. Yeah, create route. Okay. Let's continue to... Let's see what create route. Let's actually go look at the docs for this. Hang on. Create route. So it gives it you give it the API ID. Nice. What is root key? Won't need authorizer. No authorizer. Maybe later we'll worry about authorizers, but right now. Okay. What I'm looking for is the root key. What is... Thank you so much. That is so descriptive, AWS. Okay. My assumption is that root key is basically the path, but I cannot be sure. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's a separate one for adding paths. So let's keep looking at our available function, our available SDK calls we can make. Get root response stage, VPC link, and then we get into the D's for deletes. We don't want to delete anything. Get. I'm guessing roots is the one we want. It's a import API. That's an interesting one. Update's a root. Yeah. I'm guessing root key is the... Does it describe it better what root key is here? Nope, the root key... Yeah. Thanks, AWS. So, AWS API Gateway v2 root key. Let's see if we get any more info from Google. Maybe CloudFormation will give us more information here. Okay, that kind of tells me a little bit more. Okay, there we go. Now this is what should be in the SDK docs. It should be shows you an example of what a root key would look like. Oh, okay. Thank you, AWS. Now I know. Okay. Anyway, so let's continue to look at. So what we really want to do is, okay, go back to our code. Really what we want is we wanted to go through the process. All right, create an update API. We wanted to go through. Just thinking this through. I'm going to remove my for loop for now. Let's just start from scratch here a little bit. We'll keep my little array. So we wanted to go through. There's always going to be a single API ID. Okay. We don't need to worry about making that multiples. This is going to get the existing. So instance state is central state storage for components provided by the components core. We didn't have to do anything there. That's done for us. Nice feature of components. We need to decide what to store in the state. And because we're using the express component, we're just reusing some of the code that defines this. So that makes it a little bit easier for us. And this is handling creating the initial API. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. We're going to need a single API for all 5 of our Lambda functions. Let it look for that. That's fine. Alias ARN is a little difficult because this is for our Lambda functions now. So lambda ARN, I'm just taking a look where that's used. Okay, this is used here for the update. Don't know why you're updating API params. All right, let's take a look at. I just want to look more detail in the create. I think there's going to be something in the create we want to change. This is a straight call to AWS SDK, because that's the API Gateway v2 client. See, and it hovers there. All right, so again, I'm going to go look at the. It's what we don't want. Okay. I'm just trying to think it through. Sorry, folks. What we need is for this to be created and get our API ID. Then we need to add the roots as well. So this is where afterwards we loop through and add roots, I think. I'm worried about this though, this lambda ARN. Let's go take a look. What is this target? Let's go figure out what that target is first. I need to figure out what that means. Let's hope it's a little bit more descriptive than root key. We're actually looking at root here, I think, not create. So let me actually go back and go to create API. And by default, it has a target. Okay, we may just remove this. Is it required? No. This property is part of Quick Create. Ah! Quick Create produces an API with an integrator. Okay, nice. So now we know. A default catch-all route and a default stage. All right, so that makes sense. The express component. Hi, Donald. I'm glad it's cool. For anybody who's just recently joined, if you have questions, comments, feedback, doesn't have to be about what you see on the screen. If you want to know anything, if you have questions, general questions about serverless, feel free to ask. That's what we are here for. So what I'm going to do is remove this target now, because in our implementation we don't want that. So then this doesn't need, where is it now? the lambda arn that oh, for goodness sake. Actually, no, that was just there. Okay. That means that on the update as well, this target doesn't need to be there. Okay. That means this lambda arm doesn't need to be there. Nice. Okay. Alright, so we have the API gateway URL. That's fine. We have the API ID. We have the create. Now, after the create happens... Right, so... Actually, I'm doing this wrong. What I need to do is... Actually, no, I'm doing it right. Sorry. I'm going a little crazy here. After this create, we've got our... I'm going to move this down here so it's referenced a little bit closer to where it's actually used. Just to make it a bit clearer that it's used down here where the API is created. Okay, and we worry about add permission in a minute. Let's add our array in, and now we loop through this array. So, for lambda handler of lambda array, oops, const. Now we need to add root. The nice thing is we have access to API Gateway v2 right there. Create root. Oh, just going to go back to the documentation and make sure we find the right one. Hit root and set the right parameters. Nice. Okay, so that means we need to add API ID. And we know that API ID is going to be this one. And then we need to add root E. It's going to be based on the lambda handler. Interesting you should ask that, Saham. So, give me 1 second. We actually have had a component that does something like that. Unfortunately, it's out of date at the moment. The long story is, the short story is that we had a beta version of components out last year, and we had another developer build a Next.js component, but we've earlier this year we updated and released components generally available, and it's backwards incompatible with that beta version. And that Next.js component hasn't yet been updated to work with the new components core that we released early in the year. So as far as I know, it is being worked on. And we've tried to assist that author as much as we can. But ultimately, it's up to them to fix the component to work with the new components core. There's not, unfortunately, much we can do than offer our assistance when asked. We don't want to step on somebody's toes and undermine them and just rebuild it ourselves completely. That's not very nice. So yeah, it's possible, and somebody's working on it. But yeah, the update that I've got on that at least. And I'm going to change my mind on this structure here. I'm going to make this the create entity is going to be... Ooh, interesting. I was thinking this through because one of the things we're going to have is inputs entity dot entity name. So, like I said, one of the configuration settings that we want for our this component is that you choose the name of the entity that you are trying to build an API for, like product, customer, whatever it is. And that means that we have the root is going to consist of that entity name. So I'm also going to say, let's support inputs.version of your API, maybe. And we can, let's use the template literal here. Version slash puts entity name. And for create, that's all you'd need. Although this also needs to be post, like so. That's what it would need to be, right? Version, entity name. That's it. Yep. I'm just going to copy this, and we can for each, and we can make changes as we go. Oh wait, didn't close it there. My bad. Okay. Let's do the same here. And here. We just had family coming into the office. Come on. Yes. So, and we do that one. Now, so delete entity is going to be a delete, and you will also need to add in the ID. Then get is going to be a get, obviously, and that is a specific entity to get, so that also needs an ID passed. ID, and then get entity is also, get entity list is going to be a get, well, but no ID passed. That's basically a scan of the table at this point, but yeah, we'll refine that later. And update is also going to be a post, and this is also going to have an ID passed. Okay. Why are you unhappy? Oh, there we go. All right, so that's really what I want there. So now I can get my root key is going to be lambda. Oh, poop. I'm going to do root key. There we go. Root key, thank you. Yeah, so I'm just ripping out the root key here instead of worrying about, yeah, I hope it makes sense. Anybody who's arrived new, if you have any questions about serverless in general, just go right ahead. We're dual streaming on Twitch and YouTube, by the way, so yeah, feel free to share with friends if they prefer Twitch or if you prefer YouTube or whatever it might be. And don't be shy, I'm here to answer any questions you may have about serverless, not just about what you might see on the screen. Okay, so that's going to create root, and I think those are the only two required items. Actually, no, it might need target. We want target. I'm just going to go down to target. Right, so we're going to add a target, but luckily we do have a reference as to what target looks like. Okay. Let's go look where... Damn, I think we actually removed it. Yeah, we did remove it, remember. So I'm going to take a look at the original Express here, and let's go look at... Let's look at that. There. Target. How it's written. There. Really? Like that? Hmm. Yeah, because that's a, okay. I get it now. I get it. Let's do that. So we're going to basically copy this as is. Make that our target in here. Okay. Okay. And then that's going to be a constant thingy that we don't need to worry about. This is going to be dependent on which of our 5 we're busy using. But lambda rn is based on this here. So, and that was actually extracted out earlier. So let's do that ourselves. Let's go do const lambda rn is equal to instance dot state dot gate. So lambda handler. Okay, it's going to be this. Lambda handler rn. That's instance spelled wrong. Yeah. There we go. We defined lambda rn there, and that's going to work here. Fine. Awesome. That's it. Wow, I love API Gateway v2. So much slicker. Damn. Do you mean this component? So ultimately, I want to serve as little YAML as possible. I don't know if you've seen components in use, Saham. But let's take a look, for example, at this express component. Just contrast it. That's probably the easiest way. That's actually a nice idea, actually, to put together the sample YAML of what we would need to make this work. So if you look at this Express.js component here, here's the configure section. And really what I'm looking for is you potentially point at the source code. But even this you don't necessarily need. Because if you just use the defaults, you'll get default functionality. You'll need to set an environment. We'll need... Okay. Let's go and create a YAML file, I guess. Might as well do that. So let's set it in the root of our little project. And we're going to call this serverless.template. Prototype, rather. Oh, goodness, I can't type. Right, so let's put together this little YAML that we want. If I take a look at this, I can see I'm going to need that at least. And this component's not going to be called Express, obviously. It's probably going to be called my long-winded API async event. Name is going to be my REST API or whatever you want to call it. That's sort of immaterial. Oops. Org is going to be the org that I set up earlier over here, if I remember correct. Yep. But this will be the whatever org you use in your dashboard. I mean, this could be whatever your org is, whatever your app is, whatever the stage is. And then we have our inputs, and this is the specific configuration for that we need. So here, the only required inputs I will want is entity name. This could be like customer or product or whatever you want. Let's just make this product. What else did I say would probably be needed as... I had inputs. Where are they? Next. These are all inputs that are part of the... and have defaults, so I'm not worried too much about these. Yeah, all of these are VPC. I don't think we're even going to support, but that's it's an optional extra. Description is an optional extra. Memory, you can see they've got defaults. Timeout, environment, layers if you want layers. Otherwise, no. Get the lambda. Update lambda. Here's for VPC again. Here's for updating a lambda config. domain, which is not required. Oh, it's a custom domain. Action role, no. Let's if you use a custom role. So again, that's not compulsory. It's not required. And monitoring on or off. Where you create or update the lambda. Again, these are not. Moving on, moving on, moving on. This I'm going to have to come and sort out because. Oh, this is the past alias. Okay, that's it later. It's fine. And here's create update. So that's not required. Geez, okay. Entity name and version. That's the other one, yes. So I can actually set that as a default as well, to be perfectly honest. But let's just add that into the prototype YAML here. So version 1 or whatever. And that's ultimately, that's my goal, to be just that. Because I can use that to create the DynamoDB table name. I can use this for the part, the root key. You don't have to have a VPC, so that's not required. Everything else doesn't need to be required. Pretty simple. And that way, this way you can have a fully working API with 5 endpoints, as well as emitting the events out into SNS. That's the goal. Nice. That's really what makes components so awesome, in my opinion. And so far, this looks like it's done. This looks like it's going to work. I need to look at add permission here to see if I need to give a sudo instance. Let's see, alias arn. Yeah, that's going to need to be based on our 5 lambdas, unfortunately. None of this is related to that. Let's see where lambda arn is used. Okay, so there's the function name. Okay. That's really the only place that it's used. So I need the arns, my lambda functions, basically. Okay. It needs multiple components for multiple entities. That's the point. Just like now, if you think about it, if you use the serverless framework, the regular serverless framework, the best idea usually is to create separate services for each entity API that you might want. That's the best way to break things up and keep things sort of nicely microserviced and small. That's what this aims to achieve as well. You create a single deployment per entity, but using components to manage that instead of going through setting up everything manually through the serverless framework. It's pretty cool. And it handles everything. I mean, it handles the creation of the DynamoDB table, the API gateway endpoints. It just returns you the endpoints. So I don't need to overwrite this, but I do need to work with looping over this, it looks like, so I can add these permissions. It's a little annoying. I'm trying to think of the nicest way to do that. I could actually, instance is used, so I do need to pass instance. Okay. Wait, what? Cancel. I didn't want to move anything. Thank you very much. Hi, Yash. Thanks for the compliment. Like I've been saying before, if anybody has any questions about serverless framework, components, anything related, doesn't have to be about what's on the screen, please feel free. And feel free to follow us on Twitch or subscribe on YouTube. I'm hoping to do a lot more of this kind of content in future. We're dual streaming, so yeah, we're trying to make it convenient for everybody. Yeah. Okay, so the next step here is I need to go back, grab, maybe go back another one. No, sorry. Let's go back to our source code here, look at this one, and grab this little array. And yeah, we go back to utils where we were. There. And we are trying to handle this add permission. Okay. So let's drop our array in here so we can loop over it. Luckily, this isn't so big or complicated. So I'm going to create my for lambda handler of lambda array. Then we're going to just copy this over. Okay. Now we have this lambda handler. This is going to basically be the handler. I think it's alias arm, but I'm going to have to just quickly go check. If I come here and I look at, and this is where it is, yes. All right, cool. Just wanted to make sure that I was doing it the right way there. All right, so update API and add permission. Right. Cool. And in this way now, we're still accessing instance in other spots. So we're getting the region, account ID, and API ID. Those are all singles. That's fine. Hang on a sec. Just realized something. Goodness. Why has that been? Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to monitor the stream and make sure that things are still working okay. Alrighty, so this looks like it'll work now. So add permission loops through. There's bound to be some bugs and things we're going to need to fix when we test this out, but let's just carry on for now. We are finished with creator update API. I am going to turn this off for now. I'm going to leave it in, but comment it out. I'm not going to worry about managing domains. There's a lot going on already. So here we go. We're now outputting our API gateway URL, which is all good. That becomes the domain. If domain is set. So again, I'm going to... I guess I can just leave this, because I'm not going to test this with a domain setting in place. It'll just output that. So output is a feature of components where you can basically make this URL available to other components in your app, exposed in your dashboard. So if I had deployed this as a component, it would output that URL and other components could then consume that output to use, which is pretty handy. Okay, so actually, I am scared to say that that might be working, and our currently running low on time. Okay, we've actually been live now for about 6 hours. We had a brief interruption earlier, but we've been going live for about 6 hours. And so far, to put into perspective, what we've done is create a reusable component. We haven't tested this yet, obviously. We're still going to have to go through the process of troubleshooting this. But unfortunately, I have to look to start wrapping things up at the moment. But let's just recap what we've done. It's pretty cool. What we've done is, using components, we've now got a way to deploy a RESTful API where you have a single API gateway endpoint pointed at a single Lambda function. And each Lambda function is pre-written to add entity to a database, retrieve entities from a database, update that entity in the database, or delete it in the database. Pretty much all the basics you need out of a RESTful API. It also automatically sets all this up. You don't even need to know about API Gateway or DynamoDB or Lambda or IAM or eventually Route 53 and domains and all this kind of stuff that we can add. It's ultimately going to be a serverless YAML file that you create that looks like this, where you give it an entity name, the current version, and you're done. You deploy. This won't work right now because I have to actually publish. In fact, let me do that. Let me test a publish. If I go to my terminal here and do an SLS publish, I think that's what it is. npmi. It doesn't matter if it's off topic. You can actually, Yash. You can also do it using the... I would suggest you take a look, and I have to just look at what is going on there. Okay. Init. Do that. It's still doing it. That's why, because my source is CD. Sorry, guys. CD source. I'll answer the question in a second. I believe it should. Yeah, okay. There we go. Feedback. Let's publish. Do it now, please. Thank you. All right, so the answer to your question is you can, but I would suggest actually taking a look at the website component. Serverless Fetch is okay, but the website component is actually far better at doing what you want to do. So I'll drop the link in the chat. I'm trying to find it myself quickly. And let's take a look at that for you, Johan, because I think you're going to like it. And there is the link. And if you go there, you'll see this is a website component. You can actually you can actually do it specifically for React. So there's a React starter that you can initialize, or a view one. You can set up credentials to AWS this way, or in the dashboard. There's multiple ways of doing that. And ultimately, what you need to do is set up where your where the source code is for your React. That's all you need to do. And then if you want to, you can even specify the hook you use to execute, to build your distributable files. Because with React, you'll have your dist files that go into production. And you can set that as well. And then when you make a deploy, it's going to take those dist files, push it into S3, and set everything up in S3 with CloudFront, yes, and all of the things you need. It's a really, really cool component to help you do that kind of stuff. And that's why I'm trying to use it with components for our little project here, because it's going to be very cool if I can... This is the type of stuff that I do all the time. This component I'm building, I do it all the damn time. I can even show you. I've got this project here, for example. I'm trying to find it. This is a project that's actually in production right now. If I can get it over to the other screen. There we go. And you can see this is a project full of microservices. These are all separate serverless framework services. Each one of them has functions that are get, update, put, delete, and so on. Every single one of these. Pretty much the same as this component that we're trying to build right now. And it made my life so much easier if I could just have a component that just puts entities into a table and retrieves them and deletes them and manages them for me. Spin that out for all the entities that I need in my data model, and I'm done. Hallelujah. Nice and easy. And then I can later build other other services with regular old serverless framework that listens to those SNS topics that it emits the events into, and then can do additional actions on top of that if I wish. But right now, I would just love to be able to have these entities spit out nice and easily. So I'm gonna have to unfortunately call it there for today. We have been going for 6.5 hours now, actually. So it's been a long stream. And next time, maybe I'll be able to come on another time and we can continue working on this and actually test this. It's now published, actually, so I might be able to like play around with this in the dev version of this and see how well it works or not. But thanks so much, guys, for joining me. I am going to have to love you and leave you there. Please subscribe, follow on Twitch, all the good stuff. You'll probably get notified when we return, when I return, or wherever. We actually may have other folks from Serverless streaming at some point. This is our serverless account after all. So, thank you so much, and I will leave you all there.